cause of death has been attributed to a violent allergic reaction, although authorities have not ruled out the possibility of drug use.
The 200th anniversary birthday gala has been indefinitely postponed. We simply cannot guarantee public safety.
Joker here.
Got interference. Call the OB.
Now, you fellas have said some pretty mean things, some of which were true.
You see, this is how crazy Batman's made Gotham.
Now,
You want order in
I
Gotham.
can be
Batman must
theatrical,
take off his mask
maybe
and turn
even a
himself
little rough.
in. Oh,
One
every
thing
day
I am not
people will die.
is a killer.
Starting tonight.
I am an artist.
I'm a man of my word.
Love is art. You heard it, folks. With me in one corner and in the other corner, the man who has brought real terror to Gotham City.
Good night. And always remember, that's...
Ever since good has existed, evil has intervened automatically. One cannot exist without the other. Well, ever since there's been productions of Gotham's Knight, the Batman, he has always been rivaled by the Clown Prince of Gotham, the Joker. One being the purest representation of what is right and fair in this world without any reason other than just doing good. And on the other hand, well, you know. We all crave a little chaos sometimes. When we watch Joker do his thing, no matter how ridiculous evil he gets, it's like we understand. In most Batman stories, Joker adds the spikes that makes the viewing experience so much more exciting. When the evil clown appears, we know how unpredictable this scene could be. We're constantly on the edge of our seats, glued to his every twitch, and we've started to realize how much we love it. His popularity may be caused by the charisma that contrasts with his sadism. But whatever the reason for this phenomenon, any film the Joker appears, that film breaks records at the box office. That might be one of the reasons why Warner Brothers always wants to have him next to Batman, or now even in his own movies. This desire has been a challenge throughout all the reboots that have been made of the Batman saga. As every time there's a new Batman, then the story always needs a new Joker. These days there's a very noticeable rise of interest in anti-heroes by most audiences. As each new Batman rises, so too must a new Joker. It's not just tradition, it's a necessity. Every era demands its own version of the Clown Prince, each more twisted and unpredictable than the last. Actors who take on the challenge confess how nerve-wracking it is to fill the boots of the previous guy, or just experiment something different and hope the fans love it. From the circus clown to the hardened gangster, the anarchist terrorist to the street thug, the unhinged mental patient to even the occasional reluctant ally, each live-action Joker brings a unique brand of chaos that keeps us all on the edge of our seats. Today we're diving deep into the evaluation of Gotham's greatest nightmare. Let's trace the legacy of the Joker on the big screen, from one twisted interpretation to the next, and see how this iconic villain has evolved into the ultimate anti-hero. When we think of the Joker, it's easy to picture the twisted, maniacal genius we've come to know. But back in the 1960s, the Joker was something else entirely. A grinning trickster, full of constant fits of laughter, armed with electrifying gloves, and the weird ability to disappear behind anything in the room. This was the Joker brought to life by Cesar Romero, a Cuban-Spanish actor best known for playing charming heartthrobs, not villains. But that's what made his portrayal so iconic. At the time, Batman comics were losing steam. Sales were down, and the Caped Crusader needed a fresh start. Enter William Dozier, a TV producer with zero interest in comics, who decided to turn Batman into a campy, absurd comedy, something that parents could laugh at with their kids. Dozier's version of the Joker took the name literally, a party clown who happened to be a criminal mastermind. Romero, with his suave mustache famously covered by thick white makeup because he refused to shave it, laughed at the ridiculousness of it all. But that laughter, the one born out of absurdity, became the Joker's laugh. It was a laugh that would define the character and make Romero's Joker one of the most memorable. He wasn't just playing a villain, he was redefining what the Joker could be, a joyful, mischievous menace who added just the right amount of chaos to the colorful world of Adam West's Batman. In 1966, when Batman hit the big screen, Romero's Joker was there, bringing a playful yet sinister energy that stayed true to the original comic book character and making him one of the most iconic Jokers of all time. By the late 80s, the kids who grew up on Batman comics and the campy TV show of the 60s were all grown up, entering their 30s. The world had changed, and so had the audience. They craved something darker, and the funny Joker of the 60s just wouldn't cut it anymore. Cinema was evolving, and a new breed of filmmakers was taking the helm, one of them being a young Tim Burton. Fresh off his success with Beetlejuice, Burton was handed the reins to the next Batman movie. He wasn't your typical director. He was an ex-puppeteer, a former Disney animator, and someone who had been fired for being too dark. His short film Frankenweenie, which was deemed too twisted for the Mouse House. Burton had a unique way of telling stories, like fairy tales that could give adults nightmares. And that's exactly what he planned to do with the 1989's Batman. The Joker had to match this new, darker vision. When it came to casting, one name kept coming up: Jack Nicholson. Already a Hollywood legend with an Oscar for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, an unforgettable performance in The Shining and Chinatown, Nicholson had the perfect devilish grin and raised eyebrows that screamed mischief, mockery, and just a hint of madness. As Burton put it, Jack Nicholson is one of the coolest people in the world. But even though he was the obvious choice, he initially turned down the role. Warner Brothers got clever and offered it to Robin Williams, hoping the move would light a fire under Nicholson. Before Williams could say yes, Jack was officially cast as the Joker. It stung for Williams, but it was official. Jack Nicholson would bring the Clown Prince to life. Nicholson was on board with Burton's dark vision. Having dabbed in animation himself, Jack understood the power of bringing a character to life in an unexpected ways. He aimed to channel this playful spirit of Cesar Romero's Joker, but with a sadistic twist. This Joker wasn't just shocking people for fun, he was frying them alive with electricity. He didn't just laugh gas up a room, he poisoned an entire city with toxic grin. Nicholson wasn't here to make a movie that kids would light up with. He knew this was the start of something much darker, something that would redefine Batman for a new era. The character's look was just as crucial as his way of behavior. They gave Nicholson prosthetics to stretch his famous grin even wider, but they had to leave enough room for him to act. The challenge? Jack was allergic to the adhesive used to keep the prosthetics in place. Combine that with the heavy layers of makeup, and you have a recipe for discomfort. But the discomfort was worth it to physically manifest the Joker in all his chaotic glory. The result? Nicholson delivered a performance that exceeded all expectations, cementing his place in the legacy of the Joker and helping to immortalize this darker, more sinister take on Gotham's most infamous villain. Nicholson's portrayal of the Joker redefined the character and shifted the entire landscape of superhero films. Suddenly, these weren't just silly roles and colorful costumes. They were performances that demanded attention. Yet, as the years rolled on and the Joel Schumacher era took its toll, the impact of Nicholson's Joker began to fade. Then in 2005, a new chapter began. Enter Christopher Nolan, a director who stripped away the cartoonish layers and grounded Batman in a gritty, hyper-realistic world. A world that reflected the early 2000s, with all its paranoia, corruption, and moral ambiguity. Nolan's Batman was more like an amazing detective, exploring the very essence of justice, hope, and humans' nature's darker side. And to bring this vision to life, Nolan needed a villain who could embody chaos in its purest form. For this, we're introduced to a Joker who is a criminal, an agent of anarchy, and most of all, someone who wants to prove that the world is just as mad as he is. In The Dark Knight, Nolan and his co-writers David S. Goyer and Jonathan Nolan used the Joker to hold up a twisted mirror to society. Batman, the protector of order, became the Joker's ultimate target. This Joker did not enjoy crime for its own sake, but because he wanted to prove a point that the line between good and evil is as fragile as the human mind. For this reinvention of the Joker, Nolan had a clear image in mind, Heath Ledger. But Ledger was a surprising choice to many. After all, he was known for romantic roles, most recently in Brokeback Mountain. The public had already immortalized Nicholson's version of the Joker, and anything that veered too far from that was bound to be met with skepticism. As Nolan himself said, but Nolan persisted, and eventually, so did Warner Brothers. They cast Ledger, despite the public's reservations. Ledger didn't aim to surpass Nicholson. He aimed to reinvent the Joker from the ground up, and that's exactly what happened. This Joker didn't care about appearances. He was disheveled, with greasy hair and a cheap suit, and makeup applied like war paint. His scars, with origins he lied about every time, were undeniable proof of his chaotic nature, a physical manifestation of his inner turmoil. The character's tics, like Ledger's frequent lip-licking, were just quirks but born from the very makeup that made him the Joker. Rumors swirled about Ledger losing himself in the role, but those on set denied it. They said that off-camera, Ledger was still himself. Yet, his performance was so powerful, so deeply unsettling, that it earned him a place not just in the pantheon of great superhero portrayals, but in the history of cinema itself. Ledger's Joker was a reflection of society's darkest fears, earning him an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor after he passed away, a tragic reminder of the brilliance we lost too soon. His death at 28 left a void, with the promise of future performances that would never come. But his Joker, the character is forever etched in the hearts and minds of fans and movie lovers alike. And just like Nicholson, Ledger had now set an even higher standards for how far the iconic role can be taken.
This thing is huge. What is it? I mean, I guess we're over vampires and it's all about superheroes now.
And the world has taken notice, as was said at the top of the piece. $505 million overseas, $175.3 million this weekend, opening weekend, second biggest opening weekend of all time in North America.
By the 2010s, superhero movies were way more than just films. They were culture events. Marvel had to set the stage with its cinematic universe, connecting stories and characters in a way that kept fans on the edge of their seats, hungry for the next chapter. Naturally, DC decided to jump on the bandwagon. In one of their Connecting Stories films, they brought together a ragtop group of villains for a suicide mission, a chance for DC to reintroduce the green-haired clown who had haunted Gotham for decades. This time they chose Jared Leto, an actor fresh off an Oscar win in 2013, to take up the mantle of the Joker. The moment the trailer dropped, with just a glimpse of Leto's Joker, fans lost their minds. Suicide Squad went on to rake in over $700 million. But here's the catch. Most people didn't like it. And one major reason, Jared Leto's Joker. So how did this iconic screen character fall flat? First off, this Joker was cut from the same cloth as Nolan's A Realistic Take. But instead of being a chaotic mastermind who would burn a pile of cash just to make a point, this Joker was more ordinary. A gangster with a bad attitude and a love for tattoos, chains, and gold-plated guns. He was more of a thug with a taste for luxury, living it up with his ride-or-die Harley Quinn. But here's the problem. Joker's magic lies in his unpredictability and his utter lack of attachment to anything or anyone. He's not supposed to care about material things or relationships. Batman can't beat him because there's nothing to take away, nothing he values. But this version of the Joker, he's got too much to lose. Then there's the second strike against this Joker, his screen time. The marketing for Suicide Squad teased us with the Joker. But when the movie came out, it felt like he was barely there. Margaret Robbie, who played Harley Quinn, admitted that a lot of Leto's scenes were cut, saying it made the movie more complicated. Essentially, Joker was used as clickbait, and when fans didn't get the Joker they were promised, it left a bad taste in their mouths. Despite Leto's commitment, he stayed in character off-set, asking others to call him Mr. J or just J. His performance didn't land with the audiences. It hurt Leto, who clearly cared about the role, but he got a shot in redemption in Zack Snyder's Justice League. This appearance allowed him to give a bit more depth to the version of the Joker, offering a glimpse of what could have been and giving him a measure of justice in the eyes of the fans. While DC was busy crafting its superhero universe, a different kind of Joker was taking shape in the mind of a director known for more crude comedies than blockbuster hits. Todd Phillips, the man behind The Hangover, had a wild idea: a Joker film with zero Batman. Well, almost. A narrative straight out of Scorsese's playbook. The Joker would be the star of the show, driving the story himself. It was a bold move, especially since Phillips wasn't exactly known for box office smashes or critical hits. It took him a year and a half to convince Warner Brothers to trust him with this risky project. The concept was simple yet daring. An origin story for the clown prince of crime, exploring what makes a man turn to darkness. Phillips was intrigued by bad characters, driven by the need to understand what makes them tick. This was the Joker's moment to tell his side of the story, a tale where the world's cruelties are the punchlines, and the Joker is the one being laughed at. A laugh that, in this version, is not a mark of madness, but a painful condition ignored by a neglectful society. Carrying a gun? Blame Randall. Killing someone? It was self-defense. The narrative constantly begs the question, how much of this can we believe, and how much does society push him over the edge? Phillips had his sights set on Joaquin Phoenix, seeing him in the explosive energy of the role demanded. Phoenix truly embodied the role, leaving no stone unturned. Without a formal agreement, Phoenix showed up for a costume test, and just like that, he was the Joker. To fully transform, Phoenix shed a staggering 44 pounds, subsisting on a diet of beans, lettuce, and asparagus. He perfected the agonizing, uncontrollable laugh, a far cry from Romero's crackles, drawing inspiration from those suffering from pseudobulbar effect, a condition that makes laughter a source of pain. Phoenix wasn't acting, he became the Joker, pouring every ounce of his being into the role, and it paid off. After years of Oscar nominations, Phoenix finally took home the gold. Marking a high point in his already illustrious career, his portrayal of the Joker was more than a performance. It was an exploration of pain, society, and the fragile line between sanity and madness. Insanity never made so much sense. Now to recent years. When a brand as legendary as Batman is in your hands, you don't just let it fade into the night. So naturally, another reboot was inevitable. This time Matt Reeves took the helm, delivering a version of The Dark Knight that leans heavily into his detective roots. The side of Batman that's more about solving mysteries than just punching out villains. But this Batman really likes punching villains. And this time, Batman wasn't facing off against the Joker. Instead, he went up against the Riddler, a villain whose intellect and cunning have always been on par with the Joker. Paul Dano stepped into the role and did more than just delivery. He shattered expectations. But that's not where the surprises end. Enter Barry Keoghan, a rising star from Ireland who originally auditioned for the Riddler. Dano's performance was so on point that Keoghan didn't land the role, but Reeves and his team saw something in him, something wild and unpredictable. So they cast him as the Joker. Although much of his screen time was left on the cutting room floor, the glimpses we got showed a Joker like we've never seen before. This Joker is more mentally unhinged than ever, with the face so disfigured it's hard to tell where the man ends and the madness begins. He's almost unrecognizable, yet there's something disturbingly familiar about him. What stands out most, though, is the bizarre connection he shares with Batman. They speak to each other almost like old friends. with a twisted kind of affection. It's as if they've been playing the cat and mouse game for so long they can't imagine life without the other. In this version, the Joker doesn't just challenge Batman, he collaborates with him, helping him solve crimes and blurring the lines between hero and villain. It's a relationship that's more symbiotic than ever before. Batman needs the Joker, just as the Joker needs Batman. They're two sides of the same coin, locked in a perpetual dance where neither can exist without the other. They're not just enemies, they're almost roommates, bound together by fate, destined to coexist in the shadows forever. The Joker's evolution on screen mirrors the darkness within all of us, a reflection of society's deepest fears, desires, and madness. From the playful trickster of the 1960s to the anarchic force in Nolan's Gotham and the tortured soul in Phillips' Joker, each version has revealed a different side of chaos that captivates and terrifies us in equal measure. Batman and the Joker, bound by fate, are more than just enemies. Their endless dance of light and darkness will continue to evolve, with each new iteration pushing the boundaries of what we thought possible. But in the end, who is the real hero here? Is it Batman, the embodiment of justice, or the Joker, who forces us to confront the chaos within ourselves? Perhaps it's both, or neither. The choice is yours. So what are your thoughts? Drop a comment on this video, hit the subscribe button, and tell us what movies or series you'd like us to deep dive into next. This channel is produced by movie fans for movie fans.
You remind me of my mom.